can you see this picture? Yes, it's all about business. Good day everyone, especially to our dynamic instructor, Ms. Ria Kiber. And to those who don't know me, I am Amy Ann Visto, the reporter for today's video. And our topic for today is all about business in general. It has 7 different topics. First, development of our business culture. Second, the study of business. Third, the attributes of the term business. 4, kind of business. 5, why people go into business. 6, the choice of a particular business. Factor M. The last is location, factor, and social values. Development of our business culture. People have engaged in business activities since the earliest beginning of community existence. When early men produced more of a crop or caught more game animals or fish than he could consume and bartered the excess for something produced or caught by a neighbor, he was engaged in business activities. Meaning, if you have your own product, you can sold in your neighbor, or bartered means exchange goods. Okay, for its simple beginning in the dim reaches of man's prehistoric past, business grew and proliferated because increasingly complex and comprehensive until it came to dominate the overall culture of human society. How business was already highly developed in the ancient world. Recent excavation have unearthed business transaction that was written on clay tablet, which are 6,000 years old. The second one is the Code of Hammurabi, promulgated around 2000 BC, and had provision governing commercial transaction. And the next is the Roman Empire had a clearly defined wage system. Then next is the devices of business control like accounting, and business functions like insurance and banking date back to the Middle Ages. How business is equally ancient in the Philippines. It also reaches back into prehistoric times. Historians have shown that the Philippines lies at crossroad of ancient trade and migration. As early as the 9th century, Arab traders were already visited the islands. By the 12th century, Chinese traders took over most of the Philippine trade and even established trading communities in the Philippines. The galleon trade was the trade between Manila and Acapulco in Mexico, which was carried on mostly during the 18th century. The Spanish community in Manila tried to accumulate fortunes by speculating on the annual trip of a galleon to Acapulco. However, this famous trade did very little for the development of the Philippines and contributed practically nothing to the fortunes of the Spaniards. The ones who obtained profit bonanza were the Chinese. This was because the goods shipped to Acapulco, though carried by the Manila galleons, originated from the cargoes brought by the junk from China. The main item traded was Chinese silk. There were also precious metal works from India and rugs from Persia. What are the pattern of specialization of the three people in the colony economy? This pattern, to a large extent, presented throughout the colony period until 1898, and traces of it survive even today. The first is the pattern. The Filipinos were the menials and the tellers of the sword. The Spaniards were the governors, and the Chinese and Sanglay mestizos were the distributors, tradesmen, capitalists, and the entrepreneur. The determination of what, how much, and for whom to provide. The allocation of the goods and the service produced, further growth of the economy, the distribution of economic benefit, and maintenance of the relations with other countries. Hence, if buyers wish to purchase more than what the seller wishes to sell or can supply, prices will rise. As prices increase, buyers tend to reduce their purchases, while sellers increase the quantities they wish to sell. Similarly, if sellers wish to sell more than what buyers prepared to buy, prices fall, causing sellers to decrease quantity sold and buyers to increase the quantity they wish to buy. Meaning, for example, if the buyer wants, if ang buyer gusto mong palit og bugas, so ang production sa bugas motaas pud siya. Nya motaas pud ang iyahang prices, or kuntay inana para sa una. Ang bugas is naapa sa mga 20s, 30s, 40, karon na sa 50 and up. So, inana na siya. So, similarly, if the seller wish to sell more than what buyer prepared to buy, prices fall, causing seller to decrease quantity sold and buyers to increase the quantity they wish to buy. So, kung, for example, if the seller want to sold a beauty products niya, ang buyer dili man pud tanan buyer is needs of beauty products. So muna siya ma-decrease jud ang iyang quantity of sold, kay dili man tanan nag-need og beauty products. That's it. According to Karl Marx, all mankind must sooner or later pass through the session. According to Karl Marx, all mankind must sooner or later pass through the succession of different historical stages, ending on attainment on the stage of socialism and finally communism. Identical the two is the ownership of the factor of the production, capitalism wherein private ownership exists. Certain distinction between socialism and communism. Socialism, goods are not yet sufficiently produced to meet all the material needs of the members of the society, while in the communist, the said state of abundance has already been achieved. So, nadyo sila'y kalainan, no? So, in socialism, man produce as a result of incentives like wage, while in communist, production is undertaken without any prodding, since work becomes natural to the members. Security and need for materials incentives disappear with the reaching of the stage of communism, since scarcity, social classes, exploitation, and the state does not exist. Socialism, as viewed by Marx, in the next stage after capitalism, the concentration of power in the hands of the few and the exploitation lead to the taking of drastic step by the working. The prohibition of the private ownership of materials goods of the factor of production is for the purpose of avoiding the presence of the power of one person over another. Production of materials things is through collective labor where, um, as as the Karl Marx said, each one gives according to his abilities and receives according to his needs. While Philippines business is essentially capitalistic, it also carries many elements of government guidance and control. Thus, the government lays down the rules for economic activity, restrain excesses like monopoly or harmful competition and assets business with monetary policy or even outright financial assistance when the needs arises. The modern business culture had a beginning in the commercial revolution of the 15th and 16th century. Rather, the geographical discovery in the influx of luxuries such as spices, silk, perfumes, and other items from the East, and the realization by Europeans that there are material things in the life worth buying and enjoying, give rise to an unprecedented increase in trade and commerce. The demand for goods developed had to be satisfied. Then came the Industrial Revolution. Mechanical invention removed the production limitation which kept the demand from being fully met. Mass production gave rise to expanded industry and trade. The techniques and method of business activity will develop and polish. The acceptance of the laissez-faire theory, the competition can be trusted to guide business activity towards socially desirable ends, complete the process of molding our business society in its present form. It is true that business has been present since man's earliest beginning. So let's move on to the second topic, which is the study of the business. So why? Nga naman jud mag-study man jud ta sa business. Uy, so here it goes. Business studies, often simply called business. It is field of study that deals with the principle of business management, and economics. So it combines elements of the accountancy, finances, marketing, organization studies, human resources management, and operation. For instance, it may be asked, is every money-making enterprise a business? If this is so, what about gambling? What about an enterprise that loses money? Is that a business? What about the farmers? Is he in business? What about those in the medical professions? What is the difference between a man who works for another and a man who does the same work for himself? Is an inventory a businessman? Okay. There is probably no finely drawn dividing line between business and non-business. Obviously, a merchant of a businessman while a clearingman is not. Okay, let's move on to the third topic, which is the attributes of the term business. Business has been defined as an organization of the people with varied skills, which uses property or talent to produce goods or service which can be sold to other for more than their cost. So, medyo na business, no? Imong paapawan. Okay. Or it may be considered as the system through which economic activity organized and directed by those who seek to make a profit. So, like a company. So, business include any lawful activity carried on continuously which involved buying and selling or manufacturing or financing or rendering of the service for money. The characteristic of business can only be possible in the following. This characteristic of business can be possible only in the climate in the country, the constitution, the law, the custom, and the tradition of the people will allow those who engage in business reasonable expectation of profit possibilities. So, medyo na siya. Dapat siya ay only be possibility. Alright, let's move on to the fourth topic, which is the kind of business. So, the extent and nature of business activities are almost as diverse and comprehensive as the totality of the social and economic interests of men. W.R. Sprengel classified business activity into three groups. First is commerce, second, industry, then third is the service. Okay, let's move on to the first group, which is the commerce. It means that the transfer or exchange of goods and service, the movement on goods from point of production to point of consumption. So, it covers buying, selling, and marketing and merchandising, which are directly involved in the transfer of goods. So, under commerce are also other activity which indirectly concern the transfer of goods like collecting of goods, grading, warehousing, transportation, insurance, and the financing of transfer. Under commerce, we also include a host of activities that have grown around the actual transfer of goods, the collecting of goods, their grading, warehousing, transportation, insurance, and financing of the transfer are subjects of business in themselves. So, imagine siya. So, let's move on to the second group, which is the industry. Industry is the primarily concerned with the creation of form, utility, or the production of goods that are used either by the consumer and are therefore called consumers good, or by other in industry in the further production of other goods and therefore called producers good. The broad grouping of industry is further subdivided into four groups, which is the first is genetic, second is extractive, then third is manufacturing, then the last is the construction industry. Let's move on to this first group, which is the genetic industry. The derived from the word Genesis, or in Bible means in the beginning. So beginning include the agriculture, forestry, and fishing culture. So mo junay kinaunhan. So agriculture, dili ka makaproduce og goods og wala kay agriculture. Wala kay tanom. Dili ka makaproduce og juice o wala kay forestry, wala kay tanom nga mga kahoy, mga fruits. O dili ka makaproduce og bulad, o wala kay fish culture. Usaon man nimo pagproduce og bulad o wala kay fish. So, mao na siya. Dapat magsugod og agriculture, forestry, and fish culture. So let's move on to the extractive industries, including mining, lumbering, hunting, and fishing. They are characterized by the extraction of goods from natural resources. So, what we call extractive, extract. So, mining. So, mo dyan no, warang na-issue na dyan mining sa atuwa kay warang naputol na dyan tanang kahoy, no? Dakuso na kayong baha. So, ang mining is mo ni anita magkuha og kanang mga kahoy. Himuon og papel, produce tag papel. Og uban pud kay ani pud mag-mining para makakuha og gold. Para naay kanang naay mga luxuries. So, okay. Okay, let's move on to the last. Hindi pa day last. The third, or rather, a third group, which is manufacturing industry, are involved in the changing of raw materials or secondary production into a more useful form. The change from a basic to a more advanced form, maybe physically or in maybe chemical manufacturing. Ana jud nagsugod ang innovation sa manufacturing to satisfy the needs of customers. So, sa una, ang ato ang cloth is as pano barong asaya wala pa tao ga-dress karon na anay spaghetti, na anay off shoulder, na anay crop top, na anay short, o na anay leggings. O muna siya ana jud magsugod sa manufacturing. Ana mag-innovate, ana mag-invent, ana mag-change og materials para ma-satisfy ang needs para naa po'y bag-ong product, bagong goods sa para maingganyo na pod ang mga customers na mo palit. Okay? Manufacturing industry include food, beverage, tobacco, textile, footwear, and wearing apparel, paper and paper products, printing, leather, rubber, chemical, machinery, electrical appliances, transportation equipment, and hundreds of other industry manufacturing other goods or products. Akong gayon yan hinamo, dito siya. Ani magsugod ang tanan. Ani magsugod ang innovation. Ani magsugod ang mga pag-change sa raw materials, pag-innovate og laing materials, pag-gama og laing product sa manufacturing. Sa una, sa ato ang beverage. Kung ano man no, karon nanay daghan natong pilian. Sa textile, bato raman to sa una, karon naanay daghang mga tiles. So, sa atong footwear, chinilas raman to sa una, karon nanay mga sandals, nanay mga high heels, nanay mga usay klase ng mga sapatos na. So, muna siya. Sa una, papel na to is siya war siya og Manila paper ra. Nya karon na natay lengthwise, na natay intermediate pad, natay yellow pad, natay notebook, na natay kuan unsa pa diha basta kay ana jud siya mag kuan unya. Sa una atong transportation is kanapang wala siya og kalesa. Karon na natay motor, na natay sakyanan, na natay bus. O di ba daghan na kaayong innovation nga gibuhat no. Sa electrical appliances sa una, ano ba to, computer na to, dagko pa kayong likod no, karon flat na natay laptop. Sa pa diya, basta daghan na kayong innovation tungkol sa manufacturing industry. So, okay, let's move on to the construction industry. Construction industry may range from the building of multi-million piso highway, airports, any story skyscraper, to the more humble dwelling and residences where we live. So, construction. Sa una kahinumdum ko, ang among dalan is bato-bato pa jud siya nya. Karon, pagbalik na ko ato sa muan, ko ano siya, simentado na. So, sa una, wala pa'y mga building. Wala pa'y mga building. Karon, daghan na. Ana siya, ana ang pag-develop sa ato ang business. Nagkadako ang business, nagkadako pod ang mga industry, mga factory, construction. Let's move on to the third group, which is the services. The third broad classification of business. This enterprise catered to personal needs of people or with the rendering of a personal service. Businesses engaged in the service are not involved in the buying and selling of goods or the manufacturing of products. So, what it means, what it comes, service. What first word come up in your mind? But they say service. So it means physical counterpart of the business. For example, in hotel. So the business is not just in buying or selling, but also in service, which is to make the customers satisfied, to make the guest satisfied, the needs, the ones that he want. So, ano siya ang service? So, two types of service. First one is the recreation service, and the second is the personal service. So, for further discussion, let's move on to the recreational service. When we say, let's move on to this part, recreational service. When we say recreation is in the environment. So, recreation service include motion picture, production, distribution, theater for drama and stage presentation, television, and the like. So, recreational service, which is recreate, which is motion, movement. Siya. Like, theater. So, ito na example natin. So, okay, let's move on to the next part of service, which is the personal services. Personal services include such as businesses as restaurant, hotels, lodging houses, laundry shop, beauty parlor, barbershop, portrait and photographic studies, and refreshment parlors. So, as I say a while ago, that in hotels, not only in buying or selling, but also in services, including the services to make the customer satisfied, which is it includes such as it include in business. So dili man jud siya mabuo ang hotel o wala kay servant, walay services, dili siya ma-perfect. Dili siya ma-perfect kung walay personal services. Na lain na dyan sa hotel o walay personal mag-self-service ang mga customers, so which is dili nila masatisfy ang ilang needs, wala magyapon sila, wala ga vacation na no, mag-self-service sila, so mao na siya. Those transportation and communication may be classified as commerce if they are essentially intended to transfer goods, but a passenger bus or a home telephone system would be performing service. Similarly, bank, financial institution, and insurance company may deal in both commerce and industry or even services. So, mauna to siya. Ang tulo ka group, which is the commerce, industry, and services, which is dili na yun na sila mabulag, which is connected na sila tulo. Kay dili ka makabuhat og usa ka business ug wala kay service. Dili ka makabuhat og business ug wala kay commerce, walay mga telephone, walay mga other transferring goods. Dili pud ka makatukod og business ug wala kay industry, wala kay imong kaugalingong company or let's move on to the sixth topic, which is why people go into business. People go into business for the variety reason. Yes, mana. They may go into business as owner and employee or employee. The decision to go into business and not into some other activity as the pursuit of medicine or law may be the result of conscious thought and deliberate preparation over the period of years, or it may be due to the fact that person finds no easier or more satisfactory way of earning a living. So, mano man jud ang tao, moadto man jud og business. Prefer man jud business bisag na ana siya profession. Manong mag-business pa man jud. So, mani siya. Most people get into business just to secure some extra income to take care of their many needs. Some of even though so just to raise some money and handle a one-time problem. These are no doubt reason why they do business like a part-time thing. Mao ay. So dili nakatingala nganong ang tao mudong jud og business because we secure some extra income. So dili ta mahimong successful og wala tay business. Dili ta mag-business mapuno ta sa utang. So I'm not telling to everyone but based of my observation lang. So dili pud tanan nga ga-business nga walay utang ha. So make it balance lang dapat. So both owner and employees need essentially the same personal characteristics that are required to succeed. Both also enjoy certain values which are derived when people go into business. So these are the values. First is the social approval. The businessman has a high social standing in the community. It used to be that society looked with a greater favor upon the soldier, the landlord, the press of the doctor. Early businessmen were looked upon as second-class citizens who belonged to a lower social strata. So, dili tanang businessman is high standard na siya. Ang uban is nagsugod siya og lower social strata, belong sa lower strata. So many businessmen na pobre jud sa una. So it comes sa ilahang strategy, silang techniques, silang knowledge about business, they become rich. So, this is not true anymore. Our businesses like the Sorianos, Del Rosarios, Delgados, Yasabel, Subel, Sayalas, Hernarices, Puyats, and other businessmen tycoons enjoy position in society equal to or even higher than any other calling. So, mao jud, dili jud tanan ga business mga successful businessman is mga high social standing ay mga dato na daan. So, mao jud ni sila. So, okay, let's move on to the second value, which is the profit. The major factor of motivation for going into business is profit. Individual enter into this activity because of the anticipation of our reward. For this toiling in the form of monetary benefit, aside from this return, but must be realized by their productive asset to us to maintain a satisfactory level of productive operations. So although the main factor is profit, businessmen nowadays have come to understand the importance of placing as much emphasis to standards and more, and socially acceptable levels of profit have changed also. Businessmen have become more conscientious in the desire to promote social welfare as well as realization of earning to hand in hand in the present business atmosphere. This is undertaken not only on as offsuit of moral and legal restraint, but also due to the personal satisfaction of businessmen involved. The search for a means of livelihood goes hand in hand with the desire of profit. This can be initial reason for entering into a business venture, which the desire for social approval coming in at much later period. Since social approval can be achieved through various methods, people need to enter into business necessarily in order to gain merit in the eye of others. So, maodyo ni siya. Main factor of the business is the profit. Profit jud siya. Dili ka mag-business o wala kay ma-profit. So, muna ko. Sa pangalan scam joke. Let's move on to the next values. Let's move on to the next value, which is the service to the community and to employees. While profit is an important value, it is not an overriding one. There is a maximum in business which state that the profits must who serve best. Many businessmen rendered service to the community in donating money, sponsoring civic activities, setting up facility for community needs, or providing opportunity for employment. Many libraries, artisan wells, recreation halls, and playgrounds are built by business firm for the community. Red Cross Fund drives the community chest. Boys and Girls Movement are led by the successful businessmen as part of their public service function. Service is given not only to the community at large, but to one's own employees. Industrial relations as a function of business has expanded into various activities intended for the well-being of employee. So, muna jud siya. Most of our recreation, our parks, our playgrounds, our ano pa yun, other recreation as which other facilities which involve built by the business firm. Sa mo po no, nagkadako ang business, nagkadako po ang ato ang city. Okay, let's move on to the next value, which is the personal satisfaction. Personal satisfaction. This personal satisfaction comes about from the social status conferred on those engaged in business. It also arises from the many opportunities given to the businessman to satisfy his creative urge. His desire to witness the concrete fruit of his endeavors and his search for self-fulfillment in what he feels in useful activities. Business is not only a means to provide a livelihood, but a way of life and a pattern of existence as well. So, mo ni siya personal satisfaction. So, wala po tayo laina po ni mag-business ta niya, walay masatisfy sa itong business, no? So, we need to have a personal satisfaction para ang atong customer magbalik-balik. O, dyan na siya. So, let's move on to the next, which is the livelihood. People go into business to earn a living. The pervasive influence of business in human activity is such that very often that only avenue where one could enter in the hopes of earning a living is to work for commercial, industrial, or service establishment. Sociological makeup or other is such, however, that even if they could earn more as high salaried manager of employees, they prefer to go into business as owner. On the other hand, sell establishment they own, so they could work for others. So, mo dyan siya, livelihood. O bang, so owner jud dapat. So, di man gud ka makakuan. You work your own money. Ikaw mismo nag-work sa imong kaugalingong money. So, kung unsay imong nakuha, mo pod ang mas og nindot imong performance sa imong business, mas taas pod ang imong profit, imong earnings. So, let's move on to the next values, which is the power. Some people enter business because they expect to raise up to a position of percentage power and leadership. The successful businessman, whether employer or manager-employee, builds power into the community, exercise employees with the money or productive facilities under the control and commands authority over the subordinates working under him. Desire for power is a craving that is human enough, and it's often fulfilled in successful businessmen. So, mao bitaw daghan jud na successful sa business because of the connection of what is their kanang kind of leadership. What is their kanang di na ako malitok. Ilahang position, unsa ilahang rule, unsa ilang kanang naning unsa ilang position as a human, unsa ilahang relationship sa ilahang community, ilang connection mo na mo nang uban mas successful ilang business because of ilahang good relationship among the society, the community. Move on to the last values, which is the protection. Quite often, individuals inherit a business and rather than suffer a loss too, selling is decide to run the business themselves. A man who is musically inclined in youth and who seem to pursue a career in art may suddenly take over the company led by his father for pursuit of protection. A person who inherits a building and who cannot find a satisfactory tenant may decide to open his own business or trading establishment in that building. So, mao jud ni siya. So, many businessmen who have a successful businessman nga nay anak sa ila jud ang anak ipabilin ang ilaha mga business for there to have a protection of their business para dili man pud lain na pud jamo og nakay anak unya imuhang business imong ihatag imong ipamana sa laing tawo, so lain pud kayo no. So mo jud na siya, business is from generation to generation yun na siya. Kung kinsay mo pursue anak nga career. The reason why people go into business are as infinite as the choices that are open to individual and the motivation those in it. Also important why we should have a knowledge of statistics, economics, sociology, and astrology. Okay, let's move on to the sixth topic, which is the choice of the particular business. In choosing a particular business, a person may exercise deliberate judgment. He may be guided not only by personal preference but also by a variety of influences and consideration bearing upon him. Often enough, people go into a certain field of business because that field is the only one with available opening. The latter individuals would readily choose other businesses if the opening presented themselves. In other words, opportunity rather than deliberate choice becomes the determinant. So, imagine na siya. For those who are free to choose, the following factor may control. The first factor control is available fund. The variety of fund definitely limits the type of enterprise that may be formed by individual, partnership, or corporation. and available funds. So, lain na po magtukod ang business o kay enough amount nga imuhang kinahanglan no. So, if you have that enough amount, so you can do your plan to have a business, to go in the partnership or corporation partnership with a wealthy family or whatever. Next is the special aptitude and interest. In looking for the business opportunity, one must take an inventory of his personal aptitude and interest. If one has, for instance, a merchandising aptitude and interest, the business field appropriate is more probably that of the buying and selling. Such as person may go into retailing or wholesaling, the department store, the grocery business, and the like. Manufacturing would not be for him similarly. A person with a creative imagination would go into advertising or movie making. So, mo na siya. So, most of the businessmen, not just special aptitude and interest. Next one is the training, education, and experience. Even though one has the interest and an average aptitude for a given line of business, if his training, education, background, and experience had been in a field foreign to his current interest, it would be to his advantage to work as an employee in the field for a time, instead of assuming immediately in the rest proprietorship and the business that interests him more. For example, the service garage has some technical requirements that a mere interest in automotives and average mechanical aptitudes would not meet. So, mo jud, so service garage but is the automotives jud ang pwede siya i-apply adto kay what is automotive garage service garage ka nya imuhang course nga nahuman is sa pangalan aning HM. So, wala kayo kay knowledge about anang automotive. So, we need to train ourselves, educate, and experience for that certain field that we want to pursue to have a business. Okay. So the next is social status of the business. Social standing influence to the marked degree is satisfaction the individual gets from the businesses endeavors. For instance, as alert junk dealers would develop a thriving business that is more remunerative than some of the so-called select established in a given community. The manufacture and sale of the chupa or poto yields good profit. Again, a well-managed laundry yields higher returns on their investment and more money to the manager-owner. Nevertheless, many persons refuse to become the community's most efficient laundrymen or chupa makers or junk dealers and enter another business for which they have no better qualification and where they respect to make less money simply because of their opinion of the social status of the business they disdain. So mo jud daghan bitaw mga business like mga kanang mamaligya lang o mga quick isaw mas dako pa hinuon sila og profit kumpara ng kanang manarbaho ka. Mas dako pa sila og mga kita. So, wala siya. The competitive and the last is the competitive situation. The last is the competitive situation. The competitive situation should always be investigated. Competitive may be so keen that the margin of the profit is narrow or at times non-existent. Some persons enter a highly competitive field and win a place for themselves by rendering a special service that the customers wants. However, if the market is already overcrowded, a new corner may set in the motion or cutthroat competition that will wipe him out before his more securely established competitors. Some beer companies and ice cream plants found it possible to compete competes with such giant as San Miguel Beer and Magnolia ice cream rather. But others, by creating special service, may hope to succeed. So, maujud, dili ni mo siya mag-compete. So, manay uban, dili kay sikat. Mo jud sikat niya mong ice cream. So, nawala lang sila. Wala siya because of the competitive. So, here we go. The last topic, which is the location factor and social values of the particular community. An individual with the social and economic ties in a particular place may want to engage in a certain business which can only thrive in another place. The location factor and his social ties will guide when arriving at the destination. Lain na pud kaayo to. Maggama kag business atong wala kayong mga tawo. Kinsay mo palit sa imong mga product. So, mao jud na siya. Dapat naa ka sa mag-base jud ka sa location factor nimo to have a business. For example, the Divanis milk tea. So, the Divanis milk tea have a branch in Valencia and also in the Dimiaso. So kana sa location factor. So dili pud lain pud kayo og ang Divanis nga milk tea na asya branch sa Valencia, duha ka branch sa Valencia. So lain kayo no warag ag tawo mapuan na kay ang ilang location factor is duol ra. So whereas nga ibutang sa laing lungsod mas mainganyo, mas ma-appreciate sa tawo, mas makuan sa tawo nga naa sa ilang lungsod sa kay para nice pud ang ilahang dagan sa business. Dili magud lain magud kayo og kani ani nga lugar na ay kanang ani nga eskina na ay Divanis, ani pud nga eskina na ay Divanis, magbangga asa may profit nimo ana, mag-ilog mo sa mga tawo, sa mga mupalit sa imong kanang product, sa imong goods o sa versa. Are the three category of the location factor and social value in particular communities. The first is the present or potential demand. Demand is another factor that must be evaluated before a final decision is made to enter a given business in ventures. For instance, it's a careful and scientific market study and analysis of the same show that the potential demand in excess of the current demand, the probability of the growing and expanding in an excellent reason why one should enter that field. A barber shop, a television, an electronic shop, a rural bank, and other such establishments are started after considering the present or future market. So, maadyo na siya. The present or potential demand. Unsay mo nakita ana nga lugar, unsay potential ana, unsay demand ana, nganong magkamamatay na ng nga establishment. So, mo na siya. The second factor is the social significance of business. People have begun to realize the social and economic significance of business activity since this affect all of us in some way or other, directly, indirectly. We are all buyers of goods, clothing, service, and we are all sellers of our own services. So, maudyo na siya. Social significance of business. Kita mismo, kita mo oy sellers, kita po'y buyers. So, maudyo na siya. So, depends. Kay kita man tanan nangyanlad og mga cloths, mga goods, kita man tanan mukaon, kita man tanan mag-needs og mga butang nga kailangan nato. So we are all buyers and we are all sellers for our service, for our own service rather. So okay, and the last factor will be the secret of business success. Many of John D. Rockefeller competitors went out to business, not because his oil was better than theirs. Many competitors of Mr. Henry Ford have gone out of business, not necessarily because the Ford car was better than theirs. We should Rockefellers and Ford have succeeded so conspicuously, while hundreds of others old men of automobile manufacture, many of whom had more able means at the start field. It was not money alone, neither what its opportunities, nor in industry, nor brain. Better management was the secret of the financial success of Mr. Rockefellers and Mr. Ford, and of the General Motors Company, of the General Electric Company, and of thousands of other successful businessmen. Uh, these Americans have counterpart in the Philippines. Toribio Teodoro, the Sorrenti Santos team, the Belario brothers, and the other entrepreneurs have succeeded in lines of business formerly dominated of exclusively handled by elites. Because successful businessmen are better organization as they know how to combine money and opportunity and brains to bring about successful result. Not only naakay nindot ng products, so dili jud na siya. So kung naakay nindot ng product, di na siya magpabili nga nindot ra kanunay hantud. So you need to maintain, you need to use your brain, the opportunity that that the product you want to sold is to have a long-term innovation. Dapat inana ang business. You need to use your as the secret of the Mr. Rockefeller and Mr. Ford. You need to it said that it was not money alone, neither what is opportunity, nor industry, nor brain. Better management, what's the secret of the financial success? Management, kung unsa nimo pagdala ang imong kwarta, ang imong business, na ara jud na nimo, kung giunsa nimo, it's either you success or you failed. Ana na siya sa organization, management, pag-organize sa imong business. And thank you. And again, I'm Imi Ann Inobubisto, your reporter for today's video. Thank you and God bless.